Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Traversing Entrepreneurship Podcast, a show for business owners who set out to do something different and did not stop there. This is Derek DeLomo coming to you from Traverse City, Michigan, the city that inspired the name of this show. With over 18 years of experience in the finance industry, I've heard my fair share of success as well as horror stories in business. On this podcast, I enjoy sitting down with a variety of entrepreneurs to talk about what it takes to build a successful business, including all the ups and downs that come along with doing something different and paving your own way in life. In today's episode, I'll be interviewing Kate Volman, the CEO of Floyd Consulting, a certified dream manager and author of Do What You Love, a guide to living your creative life without leaving your job. She is also a podcast host and creator. Join us today as we discuss Kate's passion for helping individuals and organizations unlock their full potential, as well as the challenges and successes of entrepreneurship. Welcome to the show, Kate. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Derek. So fun.
Yeah. So can you give us a little bit of your backstory? Give our listeners a sense of how you got started and maybe what life was like before you took over Floyd Consulting.
Sure. I'll just do a quick little 30-second of my career really started at the Chamber of Commerce in Boca Raton, Florida, beautiful place in South Florida. And I never, ever thought that I'd be working at a Chamber of Commerce. I definitely never thought it would be the one in Boca. I didn't even know what a Chamber of Commerce was when I got the job there. But I started my career there. And honestly, I always tell people that I would not be the person I am today had I not started in that role, because it was there that I met entrepreneurs and I learned about community philanthropy, advocacy. I just learned so much about business. And not only was I learning about business, but I was surrounded by very successful people. Like our board of directors were the CEOs of all of the really amazing organizations and companies in South Florida. And so I felt like I don't even think I realized at the time how much wisdom and knowledge I had at my fingertips. And then I was also tasked, I was there for about 8 years. So I just learned so much, and I started developing a lot of the programs there, and I would develop programs based on the needs that I heard from the members that we had. So I feel like I just learned so much being there. I also was the marketing director for the City of West Palm Beach Community Redevelopment Agency. So I did that for a couple of years. And again, I was tasked with marketing one of the sections in the downtown, and I was surrounded by the merchants and all the business owners and all the shops, and we were trying to drive business into the shops. And so between the chamber and then working there and then starting my own marketing company after that, I just have been around so many entrepreneurs, small business, big business. And I just learned so much about business and entrepreneurship from that. I also feel very blessed because my boss at the time at the chamber and the woman that I got to work with at the CRA, they were both they were great leaders in that they let me have the autonomy to do creative work. So I was able to continue to be creative while I was working, like not only in the work that I got to do with the organizations, but I also had lots of passion projects throughout my whole career. When social media just became a thing, right? Like we're dating ourselves, or I'm dating myself, but when it just
Yeah.
came out and it wasn't a thing, I really gravitated towards, I started posting on YouTube and really getting into Facebook and trying to learn all this stuff. And so I've always had passion projects and writing and learning how, obviously I wrote a book a few years ago, and I just think that it's so important to incorporate creativity into everything that we do. And so I feel very blessed that I had the opportunity to do that no matter what my career was.
And what drew you to the marketing side of things? And I guess, coincidentally, Floyd Consulting after that.
So I started a marketing company with a friend of mine, and it was one of those things, Derek, that I actually was thinking about starting a blog. So like, remember years ago when blogs were a thing.
Yeah.
So I was going to start a blog, and I still remember the name of it. It was going to be called Speaking of Savvy. And I had this whole idea of, I'm going to like introduce people to these just new ideas or new tools or new, like, speaking of savvy, I don't know. I still had I created business cards and everything. And then a girlfriend of mine came to me and said, let's start a marketing company. Her brother-in-law he had a business, very successful entrepreneur, and he's like, he wants to partner with us and have this marketing company. And obviously, I was doing a lot of marketing for the CRA, and I really fell in love with marketing. And social media was so fun at the time, like learning how to, like, I was teaching the merchants how to leverage video to get people into their stores. So I was having a really fun time with that. And I actually started a show while I was there. It was called Hired. I pitched this idea of having a show where I got to interview the merchants to talk about their services so people would come in and visit them. So I just had the best time doing it. And so when my friend said, "Hey, let's start this social media marketing company," I was like, "Oh, well, this guy knows how to run businesses. So let's just go in and I'll partner with them and we'll start this business." And so that's how I started the marketing company, and learned a lot learned a lot about partnerships, learned a lot about the service business and getting clients and all of those pieces. It was wild. And then funny enough, I and this is what I love so much about networking and just kind of always staying connected to people that you really respect and admire and are putting good work out into the world. So when I read The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly when I worked at when I was at the Chamber of Commerce, after I read that book, I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, would you come speak to our to our trustees, our CEOs?" And he kindly agreed. The book had just come out and he spoke, and I fell in love with the concept. I was like, "This is it. People need to care, like employees need to care about people's dreams, about their people. Like, this is so important." Such a simple message, but such a powerful one. And so over the years after that, like I stayed connected to Matthew, just like every couple, like maybe a couple times a year, I would reach out to him. I would call, and I'll tell you what, he was off speaking all over the country. He was writing all these books. The man has written like over 40 books now. It's wild.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's crazy. But so I kept reaching out to him saying, "Why are you not on YouTube? Why are you not, blogging and sharing and social media and like doing all the things?" Because he wasn't doing any of that. And so I was encouraging him to do that. And so finally one day he's like, "Hey, let's have lunch." And I'm thinking, oh, he's finally going to hire me to do his marketing. No, he had different plans. So we went to lunch and he was invited. He's like, "Hey, I want us to build this together. Like, let's build Floyd and reach more people and make a bigger impact." And it was crazy because after he asked me, I kind of did like a little turnaround. That's not what I do. Like, I don't do that. And he's like, "Yeah, you do." So anyway, we had a wonderful conversation. And then I can't even believe it. It's been 7 years. That was 7 years ago almost.
Really? So I guess so what you mentioned it before, but the book that he wrote about, the dream manager, et cetera. What's the concept behind being a dream manager?
Okay, the whole idea of the book is so simple. It really is treat people like people. Like if you right? Can you imagine? In fact, I love sharing that Matthew says he almost didn't write the book because he thought this is too simple, right? And the whole idea, it's a fable. It's a wonderful book. If anyone listening is interested is needs a new book to read, it's a short read. Great one. It is so inspiring. And it's a fable about a janitorial company that was dealing with very high turnover. As you can imagine, people are not, how inspired can you be going in and having to clean office buildings, right? So the high turnover, really not engaged team members. And so they implemented this dream manager program. And the whole idea of the program was starting to ask their people, "What are your dreams? Like, what dreams do you have for your life?" And so they discovered from just asking that one simple question, this person, they want to buy a new home. They want to take a vacation with their spouse because they've been working so hard and they haven't in 5 years. They want a computer. Everyone has a dream of becoming financially
Absolutely.
free, right? So they started uncovering the dreams of their people, and then they started helping those people little by little achieve those dreams, not by just giving them money, but by empowering them to take responsibility for their lives and giving them the tools that they might not have had to become the best version of themselves and actually go after those dreams, holding them accountable to it. And so it's just this beautiful idea of, hey, we cannot run businesses without people. And people, they do not come to work to build your business. Sorry, that's not why they're there. they don't come to work because they love you either. Like that is not why. Now, hopefully they love you and they think you're a great leader and hopefully they love the mission and the business, but they're coming to work because they believe if I work with this organization, I'm going to achieve my own dreams.
So you mentioned earlier you had started a marketing company, in a partnership, et cetera, and you learned all about partnerships and other businesses. What did you learn about partnerships? I'm pretty sure I know where this is going, but
Well, I will say so a couple things. One I know anyone that's been in partnerships, we know, right? Like
we
you
know exactly where it's going.
oh yeah. Definitely okay, definitely find someone that has a very different skill set than you. I think just like this is one of the biggest hiring mistakes too, right? When you hire someone that you like, "Oh, I like this person." That doesn't mean that they're a good fit for the role. So my friend and I, and by the way, we're still very good friends. She and I, like, she's amazing. I love her. It's great. So I'll just preface with that. But we're so similar. In fact, people used to say to us, "Are you guys sisters?" We were so similar, and so we didn't lacked what we needed, and like we both loved speaking and being out and doing all like the fun stuff. We didn't have someone that was like good at the operations and like the money and the figuring all that out. What I also learned, because it was a partnership of three people, what I also learned is just because someone was able to build a multi-million dollar business in one industry does not qualify them to build another multi-million dollar business in a completely different industry.
Yep. It's like, when you
That
look
hit
at that,
me.
show, what is it, Undercover Millionaire or whatever, where they go and they're given, $500 on a truck and they have to have 90 days or whatever to build a $1 million business.
Yep.
It's like, you don't really realize how hard that is, especially if it's not in the business that they were successful in beforehand. They try to take, those bits and pieces that they learned over the course of their career and implement them. But I mean, that's astonishingly hard to do if they're able to do
Yes.
it.
Yeah. And I think it's frustrating for them because they're so used to being successful. And then when they have partners, like it just, there does create, it creates a lot of conflict.
And that's, I always say when it comes to partnerships, choose wisely, like you said. And also, before you even consider doing anything, have the operating agreement or whatever that has the exit strategy clearly defined before you get into business with anybody.
100%. In fact, it's funny because I had actually had another business prior, like very early on in my career, and we had a mediator friend, and she was like, "Let me talk to you guys. Let me work with you on like an agreement." And of course, I was very young. I mean, I was in my early 20s, and so I was like, "No, we're good. We're gonna be business partners for life." And she was
Everything's
like,
unicorns and rainbows.
yeah, of course. And she was like, "No, that's not." And she was older. She was much older than us. And so she had the experience. And so she said, "No, that's actually not true. And it might actually not even be what you want. Like, well, how do you guys want to grow? Do you want to grow and scale and sell the business? Do you want to?" I wasn't thinking any of that. I was too young. I was like, I was thinking, we're going to have offices in New York and Chicago. And like,
You had the pie in the sky, and
yeah.
then she was bringing the logic, and you're like, no, we're not listening to that.
Yeah, yes, I will never forget that. And then I uncovered some very interesting things in the past from this one person. So I learned a lot about due diligence, really making sure it's the right fit, and having really uncomfortable conversations with people. Those are my favorite. Those are sometimes my favorite conversations now because you're getting to the heart of what you think could potentially happen. And that is so important. And so many things are uncovered. And once you have the uncomfortable conversation before things get bad, it's so much easier.
Very much so. That's why I always say plan with the end in mind. Even if you think everything is going to be pie in the sky, like I'll give an example. I had two sisters, owned a business here locally. They are no longer together, and it was a very, very messy. I mean, corporate divorces are always worse than actual personal divorces, right? Just because everything's out in the open, etc.
Yeah.
But it's like you look at, okay, if sisters can't get along and come to an agreement because it wasn't written in the original operating agreement, They basically blew it up and both started new things and don't talk to each other to this day.
Really?
Yeah. So,
That's so sad.
well, I mean, it is sad. And I guess the point of this is that it's all avoidable by, you know, like you said, doing your due diligence. You're not going to do your due diligence with your sister or brother, but, doing your due diligence to say, okay, I have, this operating agreement. This clearly defines everyone's roles, responsibilities, exit plans, et cetera, et cetera. It's all defined already. So you don't have to worry about what happens if it's all right there.
Yeah.
And any lawyer worth of salt, you know, has it already in a template that you just have to put in what applies to you guys. And it's like, okay, now if something goes bad, okay, I can buy you out, you can buy me out, we can sell, whatever it is. But it makes it so much easier if you do the legwork ahead of time, as opposed to like, everything's awesome. We're going to have offices in New York and Chicago and LA, and then it blows up.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like, it's like a prenup, right? I mean, it's the same thing, create the prenup when everything is good and you love each other and it's fine. And I mean, obviously you don't go into a marriage thinking you're going to get divorced, but like,
Statistically speaking, you are.
no.
It's like you said, it's the prenup version for a corporation.
Yeah.
Is your operating agreement or your bylaws, whatever they're called in your vertical. It's obscenely important, to deal with that up front. So, as you go back to, your conversation where you were asked to kind of come in and join Floyd and take Floyd to where it is now, what's that kind of journey been like? What's that learning curve been like for you? I mean, you came from somebody not thinking that you were going to do it. That's not you, right? You're like looking around. That's not me. What's that been like for you over the last 7 or so years?
I know, it's so wild that it's been 7 years. I think like anything else in business, it's been very like, I've learned a lot as I've gone. It's been really cool because I think every year I think about where we were, where we're going. I can't, can you believe that it's already been 5 years since 2020? And I won't even say the word,
The
but
C word.
the C word, but it's like, I remember just, like, navigating through that would just, like, taught me so much about we have like a lot of businesses, there was a big disruption. We certify dream managers, and we do coaching and training and speaking, and all of our speaking and event revenue and our training revenue, like, all of that was gone, and so it was like, "Oh my gosh, like, what do you do, and how do you navigate this?" And I just think I almost look at it like every couple years just felt like this season of figuring something out, right? So it's like I remember because our business, the first half of the business was very much like processes, systems. Like when I first got there, like those weren't necessarily solidified. So I didn't realize how long it takes to actually really create the right processes and systems so that you can scale when it's the right time. So we worked a lot on process system, a lot on the sales process, just making sure instead of just, I think a lot of businesses, we all want more leads, right? Like we need more leads, 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 especially working in a marketing company. I was like, that's what everyone wanted, more leads. But what we discovered at Floyd with our team was, okay, sure, we'll take as many leads as possible. However, what are we doing with the people that even just raised their hand, their little pinky, and said, I'm interested? Like, how are we cultivating that relationship? So we really leveraged our CRM. We got so big into like, what is the sales process? How are we communicating with these people? How are we making sure that there's not one person that like slips through the cracks? Because those are the people that have already said we are interested in some way. So I think we did a really good job and have done a really great job of cultivating those people that are more like in the middle of the sales funnel. So that was really helpful. It doesn't matter how many leads you have. If you don't have a great sales process, you're not going to close more deals. So I think that was kind of the first thing that we really started working on. Then COVID happened. So that was a whole like, hey, here you go. Here's a whole bunch of new challenges that you get to deal with. Fortunately, work with so many, we were already working with people on Zoom and calls like this. So that didn't really change anything for us, which was good. And then, but there was a lot to figure out in that regard. And there was a lot to support our clients on. We started having these weekly culture conversations with our clients, and we would basically every Wednesday afternoon we were getting on and doing almost like a, not a webinar, but almost like a live. We were doing like a
Sure.
live, and people could join, and we were helping people navigate through working from home, having to lay people off. What does that look like? How do you handle these conversations? How do there was so much that leaders were dealing with. And so we really got to step in and play a role for them and support our clients in a way that they still talk about today and they really appreciated, which we were so happy to be able to do that. And then you kind of move into, okay, like I always think about every year, I ask myself this question of, if we were to bring in a new CEO today, what would they do? Like, how would they look at the business and what would they change? Like, how, like, what, like, just to kind of help me give like the lens of like, what should we be focused on next in order to grow? And so I think, I don't know how this relates to you or how you feel about this, but I know for me, it's almost like we feel like I'm going to do this thing. Like, I'm going to invest in this marketing company, or I'm going to start doing webinars, or I'm going to start doing this new sales process. And like, this is going to be the thing, like the one thing. And you do it and you're like, oh, okay. Like, we learned a lot and it definitely pushed us forward, but it wasn't like the thing, right? Like, we want the magic bullet, but like there's no magic bullet. And so I think like you just keep crafting and creating and like moving towards your mission and vision. And hopefully every year you're growing. And
Just a bunch of little magic BBs. It's like we want the bullet, but it's all these little specks. We think, every idea that we have is a great idea, right? All the time.
yeah, all of them.
And, it's going to be that next big thing. But, the reality is, 99 billion of those out of, the rest of them are not going to, it's just little specks of sand, and you're kind of building this proverbial moon. But it takes a lot of those little decisions along the way that you think are going to be spectacular. They do move you forward. You learned a lot, but it's nothing but, one more one thing on top of the other.
Yep.
And okay, yep, it moved you up a quarter of an inch. Not the rocket ship you were looking for.
Yeah. So I think there's just like a lot of patience that's involved.
Which people in our positions aren't generally very patient people either. I mean, we are to a degree. We know nothing ever happens overnight, but you're like, my idea, here's the steps we need to take, and here's what we think is the result. And it's like you realize that there's 1,400 more steps in between that need to happen before you can get to what you think the end result is, before you're even considering an actual end result.
I know. It's funny that I have the best team in the world, like truly, truly. And they always tease because they always like will remind me of what I always tell them, which is everything is an iceberg. We want to do this new sales thing. Everything is an iceberg. How is it going to fix this and break this? And then
And then what part of it's going to roll over and reveal something from the underbelly?
exactly. So we're always talking about the iceberg, and but that's the thing that's so fun about business is you're building something together. And when we do a lot of coaching, right? So you can imagine most of the challenges that the leaders are dealing with when we're having these one-on-one conversations or when someone brings us in to do a training, it's people. Right? It's
Absolutely.
people. It's like, oh, business would be easy if it wasn't for all these people we had to deal with. It's like this is
All
the
these
biggest challenge.
personalities are a hell of a thing.
I know. So it's like so that's just, but that's part of it. And that's what's so fun. And that's why I love, I feel very blessed because the leaders that we work with they are very caring people. Like our clients are people that we're not trying to convince them that culture matters. Like they already get that and they know that and they care about their people. So whenever people have these conversations of no one wants to work or corporate is horrible or this or that, I'm always like, no, 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 there is hope. There is hope in this world because there are so many leaders that are so people forward. They care so much about their people and they want their people to grow. And I get to see and experience it every day, and like that to me is why I just feel like we're on this mission, because people, there's so much value in work. And when I hear people like working for the weekend, or I can't wait till Friday, or I hate that it's Monday, it just makes me so sad, because you spend so much time at work. And I just feel like people, there is a lot of joy to be found in work, and it helps us become a better version of ourselves. And so to kind of shift that perspective, and to work with an organization and a leader who cares about individuals as human beings and not just as someone coming in to do work, I just feel like it makes such an impact.
And, you mentioned like there should be joy, like you said, of whether it's doing the work, owning the work. I don't know what over the last, I don't know, I'm going to call it 15, 20 years you've kind of seen, and it's probably gone on much longer than that, but that's just kind of when I've been in tune with it per se. It's almost like it's cool to hate your job a little bit, like be a little edgy, oh, working for the man, blah, blah, blah. It's like the man's always trying to keep you down. I don't, it's really weird to me because it's like, okay, yes, we do good work, we do hard work, we do things that are valuable to us and valuable to others. Where's the bad in that?
No, I mean, well, that's the challenge where I feel like a lot of I do there are definitely organizations and there's definitely leaders. I mean, look, you read the statistics, and why do people leave jobs? People are not leaving jobs because of, most of the time people are leaving jobs because of the leadership, because of their manager. And that's very telling, right? I think that there are people that want to do good work. Like they want to be part of an organization where they can contribute to something that is bigger than themselves, and they do feel people want to be able to use their skills as a leader, as a leader in any role. One of the gifts that we get to give our people is helping them identify their superpowers and then feeding into them and giving them the autonomy to do the work you hired them to do. No one wants to be micromanaged. Now, obviously, we need to be accountable. Leaders need to hold our people accountable, but there's a difference between accountability and micromanaging. And
Yeah.
right? Like it's such a difference. And so that's why I feel so blessed that I worked with leaders who I knew the mission. I knew my responsibilities. I knew my role and what I was supposed to get done. The way that it got done, they were not attached to that. And they were also open to, let me try something. Let's see if this works. And I think right now I just think that there's a lot of uncertainty. There's always been uncertainty, but
Always.
there's a lot of uncertainty, and they don't necessarily feel like they're able to go into an organization where they're utilizing their skill set in a way that really moves the mission. I'm talking a lot about Matthew wrote another book called The Culture Solution, and in it, it's the 6 principles of a dynamic culture. And in the book, those are the 6 principles that we are working on with our clients, right? And it's any challenge that shows up in business falls under one of those 6 principles. And
Absolutely.
a lot of challenges come because there's an expectation gap of like, what is my role? A lot of people are not aligned with, not only did they not know the mission of the organization, they don't even know how their role contributes to the mission. And so leaders are leaving so much on the table to be able to close some of those expectation gaps, get people really excited about the work that they do. And not just to make the numbers, but also because you're learning new skills and you're able to bring your own creativity and whatever that looks like in your world and your skill set to the role. Who wouldn't want to do that? If you get to do things that you are really good at in your role, you're going to obviously find more or joy out of it.
Yeah, I think, that's, you kind of hit there. I think that's probably one of the hardest things as a leader to do is to transfer that passion that you have for the business that you're owning, operating, running, etc., to the people working for you. Because it's like you hire in people to do, some type of box work, right? Like, hey, this is your title, this is your role, here are your responsibilities. To get them to understand kind of how that box fits in with the whole Jenga board is a very important skill in and of itself. Because if you can't get employee A, B, C, all the way to Z to understand how they fit together and how their work impacts that person's work and that person's work, there's going to be some tension there at some point, and it's going to probably result in some type of negative piece for the business. Granted, for a period of time, but it drains your resources as the CEO. It drains their resources as the employee, and just adds more questions or fuel to the fire as opposed to making solutions.
And you know what? One of the easiest ways to do that is seems counterproductive, which is asking your team members about their dreams. Finding out what they're interested in, what they are working towards in their life. And then when you give them a coach, whether, obviously we certify dream managers, but whether it's a coach internally, whether you're coaching them, whatever the case, the byproduct of that is that they are going to care more about the mission of the organization. People are disengaged at work. This doesn't just happen that they're disengaged at work. Most people are disengaged at work because they're disengaged in their own lives. They've stopped dreaming. People are going home, watching Netflix, hanging out, doing their thing, numbing their mind, whatever it is. No, if we get people excited about their own lives, like I get to go home and now I'm going to spend time with my significant other, or I'm going to work on this project. I work with people that was working with the CEO, and he loved playing guitar, and he hasn't played in like over 15 years. And he was having lots of challenges in the business and with his spouse. You know what he did? He started playing guitar again. That alone impacted his world so much. He's like, wow, I brought some more joy to my life. Like when he got home, he started playing music again. People don't recognize, I think it's challenging to even realize like how disengaged some people are in their lives because we're stuck to our phone, we're scrolling too much, there's just there's so much that we have control over that I think we forget about, and to do like a little self-assessment. And then if you work with a leader that is asking you about your dreams personally, gosh, you're giving them such a gift. And you know what? That person will never forget you. That person's going to, like, even if they leave your organization to go off and do their own dream or something that they are more passionate about, they're going to always talk so wonderfully about your business and you as a leader.
You were the one that gave them the foundation or the little lift up that they needed
Yeah.
in order to better themselves and better, their own life, which is then making them more engaging. But it's kind of like when you think back of what teachers do you remember in school, right? Usually it's like your kindergarten or first grade, somewhere in that kindergarten to third grade range. Elementary school, right? And then you'll have some other ones in high school or college that, impacted your certain developments. But if you think about it, it's the same, almost like we're like kindergarten teachers. Probably the wrong, you know, parallel
Where
to
you're
draw.
going.
But the idea is that if you can have that impact, whether it's early or late in somebody's career, you're remembered fondly. I look back at my kindergarten and first grade teacher, who happened to be the same woman. I will remember her for the rest of my life because of how impactful she was for me. I mean, my wife is a kindergarten teacher. She gets kids coming back who are graduating high school now, coming to see her after graduation and telling her how much impact she had on them.
I love See, that's so awesome. I feel like that is what a gift that you get to give people in that, that's the best compliment that you can give to someone. That's why I always feel
Absolutely.
like when if so, Derek, for anyone listening, this can be the challenge for anyone listening right now, is to think about a leader, a teacher, a mentor, someone in your life who you totally appreciate, that saw something in you that you didn't even see in yourself, that gave you an opportunity, that lifted you up. And this is your opportunity to pick up the phone, to text them, to call them, to send them an email, just thanking them. Because so often there are so many people that probably have no idea the impact they've had on someone's life just by pushing them, calling them, giving them a little bit of advice, whatever it is. And I think we need to be reminded that those little moments are important. They matter so that we do more of them. It's like, it's so funny. I was just having dinner with my boyfriend the other day, and this girl, you know how sometimes you'll in your mind you'll just think of a person, or you might think of a person, or you're something will like something's nagging, like say this, or call this person, or reach out to that person. And I always listen to that voice. Like if somebody was on my mind, I'll just text them. Or one of my favorite things to do is I will go through my phone in the photos, and I'll just scroll back like however long I can, and I'll send them an old picture of us like, remember this day, this was so fun, or whatever it is. So those are just like fun moments. But there was this girl, and she was our server, and something was telling me to like comp, because I was like, oh, I really love her hair, and I was like, I'm not gonna say anything, whatever. And I was like, your hair is beautiful. And she goes, oh my gosh, I'm so self-conscious, I just went to the hairdresser and she cut off too much, and da, da, da. And I was like, no, it looks beautiful. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. Like you could tell it was like weighing on her. So I thought, oh my, this is why you have to listen. I mean, such a small little thing, right? Like complimenting her hair, but like it helped brighten her day just a little bit.
And I mean, you can take those lessons into your own organization or any
Yeah.
organization that you're starting. It's like, okay, you don't have to have a bona fide, recognition program or whatever, but just personally, just recognizing something that somebody is doing for you in a positive manner goes so much farther than trying to redirect, I guess is a term now, redirect the mistakes that they're making. Because it's like, a bunch of negative on top of negative just breeds more negative.
There was a survey they did, and 86% of employees stated they had not received any type of positive recognition in the past 6 months. 86% of employees are just over here just doing work and receiving no positive feedback from their leader.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's I would agree with that actually, now that I think through it.
Isn't that
Just
so
because
sad?
it is, but you think of it and you're just like, okay, all of these, and of course you're never seeing inside, the operations of any given business besides your own. But, you know, you go to a restaurant, you know, what do we think they're, okay, they're making food, making drinks, serving drinks, keeping other people happy. I have no idea what they do internally, but I'm going to guess it's not a ton, besides maybe a couple of times a year, like having you know, a party or a holiday party or whatever. It'd be interesting to see how if almost like a swear jar, but it was a compliment jar that you just put, little pieces in for being like, hey, Joe Smith did a great job handling table 19 today or whatever it was, just so that other people could like randomly without having to, go in front, without having to identify themselves. They can if they want, but just almost anonymously give compliments. Not that are unwarranted, but just they're not going to be heard unless they're given the avenue to give them.
Yeah. Well, this is why I think it's an opportunity for any leader to implement. I know, you said you don't have to have something that's structured, and you don't like. But however, I think there is something to be said about having some type of structured program, whether it's recognition or some type of coaching or something that you are feeding into your people, and they do feel valued, they feel recognized. Even with leadership and coaching, the number one role of a leader is to help your people grow, and that this is what we get to do. And that part of helping someone grow is identifying what they're really good at, and not only just saying, hey, good job, but you know what people love? Wow, not only good job, but that's really interesting how you went about that. Or I really appreciated how you saw this. In fact, there's people I'm sure if you're listening to this, there's someone on your team that does such a phenomenal job, and they probably do so many things that they're doing, but they probably have no idea that that. So I think it's important to even say things like, hey, I just want you to know this doesn't go unnoticed. Like how proactive you are about handling these situations so that it doesn't even come across my desk. Just know, I know that's happening and I appreciate it. Like that alone will make people like, not only will they appreciate it, guess what they're going to do? They're going to up their game on that skill.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, you give them affirmation of what they're doing, whether or not they knew they were doing it. It's all of a sudden they're like, hey, it's noticeable now. And that gives them kind of the power and autonomy to be like, I'm doing this well. I need to excel on that. Because, I mean, if you look at organizations, they usually do a certain number of things well, some things moderately, and a few things poorly. Everybody wants to focus on the poor, and like how do we raise that bottom level up. I would argue it's the other way around. We need to focus on what is being done well in order to actually have an organization excel, because that's what's driving your revenue. That's what's driving your employee engagement. That's what's driving your whatever scores you want to give yourself. The things you do well really what makes you successful.
Yeah. I mean, those are your superpowers, and people often discount their superpowers because they don't realize that they're so special. Because it's their superpower, they're so good at it automatically that they don't realize not everyone's good at this. This isn't just a skill that everyone has, because it's their gift. And I think to be able to highlight those gifts and then leverage those gifts that you're given and your team members, that's why I'm always fascinated and appreciate when leaders. In fact, I have a friend of mine, he runs a marketing company, and there was someone on his team phenomenal. There's things you can teach, there's things you can't teach. You can't teach someone to care. You can't teach someone to be passionate, right? Like he cared, he's passionate. He loved talking about marketing and stuff. He loved it. Love, love, love. Not great on the phone with people. Like he's not a great salesperson. He's not like necessarily like great with like the clients, but he loved the art of what he was creating. Like he loved the marketing side of it. And so for some people it would be hey, he's not the right fit he has to leave the organization. No, he's not the right fit in that role, but this other role was perfect for him, and now he's really thriving in it because he's able to do what he does best, which is the work. Like,
Yep.
he's not the outward facing person. He was the guy that's like, I love talking and studying marketing and learning all this. So when he was on the phone with clients, he was giving everyone so much of the details. And, clients don't want to know the details. They're just like,
No.
how are you going to get it done? That's all they care about. And so I thought that was like, I really appreciate those stories because I think that's so important for us to just like really feed into our people, help them grow, watch them grow, and then whether they stay in the organization in a different role or they do something, or you're able to give them more tasks. And yeah, it's ever evolving.
It is. It is. I mean, the reality of business, it's like it's this infinite loop of stuff. It's ever evolving, it's always changing, and you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because the next set of things is going to make you uncomfortable, and then you have to manage that. Learn how to deal with it, make it hopefully success as opposed to a detractor, and then move on to the next one. It's just this infinite loop of that. But anyway, I know we're coming up kind of against time here, so we usually give our guests at the end of every episode a few minutes to leave a message to our listeners. Whether it's you know promoting Floyd, discuss something you're passionate about, expand on personal experiences. It's really your time to have the floor and give our listeners a little bit extra of what Kate Volman and Floyd have to offer.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on, Derek. This was so fun. And I hope that those of you that are listening got some takeaway, something out of the episode, even if it was just like okay, I'm not alone kind of a feeling. Cause I
Yep.
think that that's what we appreciated. I mean, I know some of the podcasts I listen to, I'm like, oh, I didn't know. I'm so happy other people think this way. But I would just say, honestly, I'll keep it short and sweet. I would say if you have if you're running a business, if you're leading a team, start asking your team members, what's your dream? Doing that one thing is going to make such a shift in your organization. And if you're interested at all in what that might look like for you, as far as having a dream manager in your organization and having somebody that's literally there to support your people and it's essentially a life coach. It's really the ultimate life coaching program. And not only are you focused on helping them achieve their dreams, but every session goes into a different area of their lives. So it is their physical, emotional, time and energy, relationships. It's all different areas of life. It's really one of the biggest gifts that you can give your team members. And not only are you going to help them grow, but obviously in that you're going to see the organization grow. And so if you are a people forward type leader, you care about your people, you implement these kinds of programs, then of course I would love to have a conversation with you about what that might look like for you.
Perfect. Well, so speaking of that, how can our listeners get in touch with you or find out more about Floyd Consulting?
So anyone that's like on the socials, you can find me over there. Probably LinkedIn would be the best. I'm definitely more like LinkedIn and YouTube are my places of choice where I spend most of my time. And then you can go to thedreammanager.com and fill out that form and someone on our team will get in touch with you. Yeah. So be happy to have that conversation.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Floyd. As you know, my name is Derek DeLomo. I'm the owner of both Tremonti Financial Consultants and Tremonti Tax Solutions, together referred to as Tremonti. Tremonti bridges the gap between financial advisors and accountants by serving as CFO to our clients. We specifically love to work with business owners to develop a proactive tax strategy that maximizes after-tax profit. It's our job to help you earn more, be more efficient, grow faster, and pay as little in taxes as legally possible. This idea piques your interest? Please go to TremontiTax.com. Click the schedule now button to book a 15-minute chat with me. Whether we end up working together or not, I'd love to hear from you. With all that said, Kate, it was really good talking to you today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
For those listening, if you enjoyed today's episode and had a few helpful takeaways, we'd love for you to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and share this episode with other business-minded friends. This has been another episode of the Traversing Entrepreneurship Podcast. We had fun today, and we hope you did too. Thanks again, Kate, for being here, and thanks you for tuning in and listening. Peace.
This podcast is presented by Tremonti Financial Consultants, LLC. The firm is registered as an investment advisor and only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators, nor does it indicate that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Content should not be viewed as an offer to buy or sell any of the securities mentioned or as legal or tax advice. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment or strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. There are no assurances that a portfolio will match or exceed any particular benchmark. All investment strategies can result in profit or loss.